I've been pulling in like a bunch of random downloads about the beginning of Aquarius season into February. So I kind of just wanted to take a little bit of time today and sit and talk to you guys about it. As those of you who have been with me for a while know that when it comes to like seasonal downloads, they usually come in kind of strange. They kind of come in like these interesting little bundles. It's just the way that spirit communicates to me. But I was really excited about what I saw. I do have a couple decks out, which I may use, but primarily I just kind of want to get the messages out like as they need to. So it's an interesting time right now because there is a lot of this collective shadow energy kind of around the field. But what I've actually been pulling in is like this redemption arc story. It's like there's all of this shadow, there's a lot of this dark feminine energy, there's a lot of this like villain origin story, like kind of energy floating around in the ethers. But what I'm actually pulling in is this redemption arc. Now, what is a redemption arc? It's the trials, it's the tribulations, it's the obstacles, it's all of this stuff like you have to get over and through in order to be able to restabilize. And I think after a lot of discourse that we have all been through, we are finally having the opportunity to stabilize this year. As I've said many times before, I think a lot of the advancement that we were looking for last year, it didn't come. And part of the reason for that is 2021 was a 5 year. That is conflict, it is challenge, it is competition, it is all of these really difficult aspects. But the good part, while we're on the topic of stories, is that 5 is when the tables start to turn. It just shifts. And now that we're moving into 2022, I think that we are finally able to take advantage of it being a 6 year, which is stability. It's harmony. 6 is bringing a lot of Venusian energy for me, and we are working our way through a bit of the end of this Venus retrograde, which, as I had said in my full moon video, I actually think the Venus and the Mercury retrogrades with that Cancer full moon have been very good and much gentler to us than other full moons have been in the past. So I'm very grateful for that. But there's this big energy coming through about the fact that like your story is in very many ways, it's being redeemed. A lot of you guys have really kind of counted yourself out. It is almost the idea of giving up on miracles, like giving up on the feeling that things can get better for you, that the work that you're putting in actually can not only make you like a healthier person mentally in your spirit, but also affect like real positive change in your life. And so I feel very grateful to come forward to remind you that nothing goes unseen. Nothing that you do is ever in vain. And I think that Aquarius season is really where you're going to start seeing some like real substantial changes. And I think that first they're really going to hit you in the spirit. And I think you're going to notice it within sort of your spiritual support team that you have around you. I do have a couple decks, which we may use, but again, it's mostly just these downloads I want to get out to you. But we will say a quick little prayer regardless. Father God, thank you for bringing me and everyone in for this seasonal reading. I ask that you give me wisdom, clarity, and discernment to deliver these messages accurately for everyone's highest of love, light, alignment, and assignment. We praise you, we love you, we thank you always. We give you all the glory and the honor for these messages to the utmost high. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen, y'all. So, redemption arc. Where did I get this? Well, I was sitting in a meditation a few weeks ago. I guess a few weeks, so like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, regardless. And I found myself sort of on this plane, and there was a lot of action, like there was a lot of kind of battle going on in the spirit. Typically, those are situations where I kind of put on my armor and I get on in there. But it was interesting because I actually found myself in a bit of this little light pod. And what I had seen around me was all of this spiritual energy kind of going head to head. It almost felt like an aggressive form of negotiations. And the way that it had come through is that all of the spiritual energies, all of the spirit guides, your angels, your ancestors, they had come through like these big transformers, which was strange to me because I was never really a transformer girl, but there was something about the presence of them. They were trying to highlight through that imagery about the magnitude of their presence, about how strongly they were helping the collective, helping you guys move forward into this next season. Now, how that relates in your real life is you may have an increased amount of spiritual activity around you in Aquarius season. You may find that your guides are more active, the spiritual energies around you are more stimulated. You may be having clearer and more frequent communication with your ancestors. Part of what's happening as well in Aquarian season, I believe, is that there is a changing of guards. So now that a lot of you guys have kind of completed this very tumultuous 2021, it's the idea that in January, Spirit really wanted to give you some time to kind of level out, kind of, again, go through some of that clutter in the subconscious, which, as we know, is really processing itself mostly through your dreams. Really kind of just put some of the cherry on top of all of the work that you have already kind of put in last year. Now, as you're moving forward, you're ready for new lessons, right? You need new guidance. It's the idea of like role models. Do you ever have a role model when you're little and then you grow up and you realize that you need new role models to help you refine, help give you a better idea of how to get where it is that you're going? That's very similar to what's happening for a lot of you in the spirit right now. So you may hear like a little bit of traffic going around because your guides, your angels, your ancestors, it feels like their energies are becoming a lot more present. It's almost like this, it's an awning. It's like this awning that's kind of following you throughout this season, but there is a changing of the guard. So you may have new guides, new angels, new deities, different ancestors that you haven't worked with before. They may all be stepping forward towards you in this season because you're ready for a new class. Do you remember Virgo season when I did that video and I was talking about how we are intended to take these astrological seasons as courses or classes because the frequency of each sign is trying to teach us something new. It's the same thing with your spiritual support team. So there is going to be an influx of energies that are helping to prepare you and guide you for this next leg of your journey. So just be mindful of that. Sometimes when these new energies come in, you can interpret them as interfering energies and try and cast them out. That might not be the case. So make sure you kind of sit, use your discernment, ask the questions, right? Look for the signs, look for the omens to try and figure out who exactly is coming in for you. Sometimes we're not going to know every single energy, but if you also notice a shift in the guidance that's coming in for you, if you've been rocking for the last year with your guides coming forward in a certain way, their energy feels a certain way, it's a type of message or the way they deliver it, that may shift. We are still a little bit in this Mercury retrograde, so some of the wires might get a little crossed. So just be patient as you and these new aspects of your team are kind of integrating as well. Something else, while we're talking about a change of guards, is also this idea of a change of assignments. As I said before, like typically, if I am kind of put on some kind of plane or realm or dimension, and there seems to be a lot of tussling going around, typically I'm sent there to relieve the tussle. That's part of sort of the spiritual warfare work that I do behind the scenes. And it was interesting to me that they had me in this bubble and they're like, no, we're gonna start having you do something differently or do your work differently. And so over the past 2 weeks, I've really been working to integrate and acclimate to some of my new work assignments. So spiritually, in terms of your gifts, your skills, and your abilities, some of you guys may be getting a change of assignment. So you may be being asked to utilize different spiritual gifts and abilities that you have that normally are not really at the forefront for you, right? Some of you may be asked to work on skills or abilities that you never thought that you would use. Some of you may have changes to the assignments that you're already doing. And this is in terms of your approach. This is in terms of your technique as well, right? It's the idea of being very well-rounded. In Aquarius season, you're going to start seeing your kind of spiritual resume becoming a little bit more rounded. It's starting to fill out a bit. So if you just notice, like in your meditations and your astral travels and in the healing, grid work, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're noticing that it's like, it's not really like hitting the way it's supposed to be hitting, there's a reason for that. Sit and really ask your higher self, ask your creator, ask your guides if there is a change of assignment. If you were being asked to do your work in a different way, or if you were kind of being relocated to another spiritual sector to do work over there. Part of the reason for that is that we can become so comfortable doing the same thing over and over again, which is good, right? Repetition breeds excellence, but it's like a muscle. We can't have really strong arms and then like really skinny calves. That would look weird in the astral, right? So it's just being mindful of that. If you're noticing that your work isn't going as it normally would, one, you could just be tired. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on while we're all sleeping in that clearing out the clutter process, but it's very likely that you are being asked to start incorporating a different type of work, a different style, or a different technique in your personal spiritual practice, however that pertains to you. Now, the other thing that I had noticed when I was in this meditation is there were two very distinct sort of transformers that had come forward, and one came through very much like Saturn, and the other one came forward very much like Jupiter. Now, one, in terms of Saturn was coming through with this idea of the redemption, the redeem. Part of what redeeming is to pay back a debt. And Saturn was coming forward saying that the collective, that you have in very many ways paid your debts off. We talk about healing. We talk about karma, we talk about trying to process all of the things that we have been through, right? Things that have been done to us, etc. But part of what shadow work is, and 2021 was just the year of the shadow, it was a year of shadow work, was also taking accountability and responsibility for the things that we've done, for ways that we've had to work off some kind of energetic debt of sorts, right? And it's going to be different for all of you. You know your life, like you know what you've been through in the last 3 years at least. And so Saturn is now coming forward, which I had said in that full moon video that Saturn wasn't coming forward like very aggressively. Saturn was coming forward just as like this element of structure, right? It is justice. It is like right and wrong. And so Saturn was really coming forward saying, you know, this collective is being redeemed. They have paid back their debts. They have learned their lessons, which is why you're ready for these new lessons, right? Now, Jupiter seems to be the energy that wants to come forward and actually give you the repayment. Jupiter is in Pisces right now, if I am not mistaken, and I believe it will stay there for quite a little bit of time. Remember, Jupiter is an expander. Jupiter wants to come in and expand all of the progress that you've made, all of that, everything that you have kind of invested, all of the seeds that you have planted. It's like Saturn is coming in and sort of cutting the cord on that old soul contract from last season, from the last few years. And again, you're going to notice a lot of this wrapping up in your dreams. And then Jupiter wants to come in and really expand you and kind of throw you like a bit of a graduation party is sort of how I want to put it. There is a kick though, of course, as always, there's always a catch. So something that Saturn had also channeled to me, it was this idea of a doorway. When I had done the video on the shadow workers, one of the cards had come out and it was like this big moon and there was a lock. There's like this lock kind of imagery on it. And Saturn reminded me of that and said that the doorway or the lock kind of to the other side is you. And I thought that that was really interesting. It makes sense, but I was like, tell me more. And so what he showed me is almost like one of those Play-Doh molds. It was the idea of like moving forward in a certain shape, moving forward as yourself. Some of you may still be really struggling with releasing guilt and shame over mistakes that you have made, even if you've learned your lessons. Some of you may still be hanging on to like just a little bit of some stuff that no longer serves you or stuff that no longer applies to you. And for those of you that resonate with that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Part of this redemption arc is you redeeming yourself, the way you see yourself, right? And so Saturn is saying that you may be feeling some pressure or some scraping. This idea of scraping or kind of shedding of this old skin came through yesterday in a very long reading that I had done for the Patreon. And it was this idea that anything that is excess on you, anything that is still attached, anything that is making you a little bit or it's distorting the shape of your truest self, it's gonna get scraped off. It's the idea of like you're going through the lock, like you're going through the doorway anyway, but anything that's excess, it's kind of gonna get scraped off of you as you move through. So you may be dealing with some discomfort as this happens, right? And it's just to bring you back to sort of like your wholest form. Now, there was a song that had come through on the Shufflemancy as I was kind of working through this energy, and it's this song by Anderson .Paak called Am I Wrong? And there's this one line in the hook, and it goes, only one at a time. And Saturn really pointed that out to me. And it was the idea of, again, everyone goes one at a time. There's a special doorway, like there's a special lock for you. We're always talking about all of these collective energies. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm particularly enjoying doing these readings for the sub-collectives, which I do intend to do more. But it was almost like Saturn and the divine coming forward and going, regardless of the collective, it's one at a time. You go on your own. It's like, even if you do a group project, you still get an individual grade, right? And so there might be some of this scraping. What are you, hold on. What are you saying? Oh, the song, their song. The song's called Am I Wrong? They're bringing me back to that. So it's kind of like Saturn going like, am I wrong? And part of that is this one at a time. It is the attachments that you still have, again, that distort just the shape of you and your spirit. Attachments you may still have to people that you know aren't coming with you, or attachments to being seen in a certain way. It's the idea that you can't go forward attached to anyone else. Yes, you have friendships. Yes, you have relationships, but it's about you as an individual. You can't go forward trying to carry the validation of the world on your back. You can't go forward carrying the opinions of others. You can't go forward with like all of that self-deprecation. It's just one at a time. It's not you and all of the others that you are surrounded with. It's not you and the rest of the collective making it through the doorway. It's like one per person you're moving through. Now, as I was kind of working through that, I got this image of a bowling alley and these bowling pins, and they highlighted to me that, you know, when a bowling pin goes down a lane, or when a bowling ball goes down the lane, it's just one ball at a time, right? No one throws two balls down an alley. But being thrown down this lane, it was kind of the idea of like this pressure. Again, it's like there's this doorway and then there's this lane pressure as well. And it's the idea of some of you may be very quickly circling through shadow, which is something that I talked about in the energy update I did the other day. You may be feeling like on top of the world, like Wheel of Fortune energy, like riding on top of the ball, and then immediately feel crushed like a day later. And then again and again and again. It's some of the polarities of these highs and lows that a lot of you are going through. And what I told someone yesterday is, typically the frequency at which you are going through these highs and these lows usually indicates how quickly you are to meet your mark. So again, if that is sort of what you're going through, if you're feeling really good and light and optimistic, and it's like you just feel different, and then a couple days later, you kind of fall a little bit back into a slump, you're feeling a little triggered. It's just the velocity in which you are traveling towards your next thing is increasing, and so there's gonna be a little bit of pressure. You're gonna feel, again, a little bit uncomfortable. Some of you might even be experiencing things like vertigo. Vertigo might be coming in, right? But the point that they were trying to make is that point of impact. When the ball hits the pins, it's something that can feel like, oh my God, this energy, like, oh, that dream, oh, I have to really be disciplined in my emotions, or these intrusive thoughts. But whatever that strike is, whatever that kind of blow is that it feels like you might be going through from time to time right now, know that that is actually your point of breakthrough. Like that's kind of the turnaround moment. And it's sort of this feeling of like, when you think you're striking out, you're really striking through. And that felt like a very important message. When you thought you were striking out, you were really striking through. Now, the next thing that I saw, again, it's like some of the readings that I do, it's like they're so smooth. But for some reason, when it comes to these seasonal download videos, they give them to me in a bunch of these like funny songs or these funny images. It's like it comes in kind of a little bit jumbled, and then I just sit there with all of these pieces like a puzzle, kind of trying to make sense of it. And I think I did a relatively good job. But the next thing that I saw, which was kind of random, was an Etch-a-Sketch. And it felt like kind of God, like the divine, was holding like this big Etch-a-Sketch thing. And I saw him starting to kind of shake it, right? Or her, or it. I relate to God as a man, but that doesn't, he starts shaking this Slate Clear. I'm trying to be inclusive. He starts shaking this Slate Clear, which again is part of that redemption energy. It's part of Saturn coming in and like kind of cutting you loose and saying like, it's okay, be free. Like Jupiter wants to throw you a graduation party. You're going to feel real uncomfortable kind of moving down that lane. But it's like the more pressure you feel, just know that it's actually like building towards something. Like sometimes the feeling of nervousness is actually your body creating the energy that you need to move forward, to get over like that final hump. And so it's this idea of your slate has been clean. You are absolved, like you are free to go into this new season. Part of what this Etch-a-Sketch is as well, because people normally draw pictures on it, right? So part of it was that a lot of you may be getting new visions. These new visions may be directly aligned to your new assignments. Now those assignments are mostly coming through spiritually, but I can also see them coming through very practically in terms of what you guys want to invest your energy in. Some of you may be picking up like activism work. Some of you may be very concerned with the education system. Some of you, it may have to do with kind of nutrition, collective wellness. Like there's a change of assignments, and with the change of assignments, a lot of you are getting a new vision. Something else that maybe a few years ago that started you on your path may actually be shifting for you. Sometimes we are given a goal or a vision at the beginning of a path, but that doesn't mean that's our destination. Sometimes it's just the vision that we need to kind of keep us moving until we accidentally bump into our thing, our realest, our truest path, or at least the path that we are taking most presently. Now, for those of you that are more kind of refining or changing the approach to whatever your assignment is, however you classify that for yourself, you're pulling in a new vision on how to do it, on how to move forward, again, how you want to speak about it. It's that sort of energy. So again, be mindful. Sometimes resistance is asking you to push through, but sometimes resistance is asking you to be innovative, right? Whereas stagnancy, asking for inspired action in Aquarius season. Ask yourself, ask whoever it is that you like and you work with, what is the assignment change? Like, what is the shift in the way I'm supposed to be moving forward? If you ask for it right now, it will be given to you. And that also feels like a very general message. If you ask for it, it will be given to you right now. Closed mouths don't get fed. The spirit is very receptive to your wants and your needs. And some of them had to get put on the back burner because, again, you were going through a redemption arc. You had to learn a lot of lessons about a lot of things. There was a big backlog of energy. But it's all clearing up now. And so closed mouths don't get fed. If you ask for it, it will be given to you. Now, it may be given to you in a way that you might not expect, right? But be open to how it is delivered. There was this big kind of like mischievous smile that I saw kind of come across God when he had this big Etch-a-Sketch in his hand. And it's almost like kind of hard to describe what it looks like because it's kind of like staring at the sun. It's like when you gotta like sit in front of God, it's like staring at the sun. It's like you can kind of make out some of the perimeters, but it's like you can't really see it. It's like it's just too bright. But they did highlight this big mischievous like Cheshire cat sort of smile. And it was this idea of like, just when you thought you were out, like just when you thought that like miracles don't happen, like just when you thought like change can't appear in your life, just when you thought. And so sometimes that happens. Like sometimes they'll let you go for a real long time thinking that none of this works. You put in the time, you put in the effort, you heal, but it doesn't pay off. Like none of it works. Because God is sort of a comedian. There is something about like poetic justice. Like there is something about like a plot twist that I think anyone who has spent any time with any spiritual guides or energies at all can absolutely attest to. And so it's almost the idea of like this Lazarus moment, like just when you thought like God was late, like just when you thought like all hope was lost, it's not. It's like this surprise moment. And again, Jupiter brings surprises. Jupiter brings gifts. There is sort of compensation that is happening on top of like a lot of these new things that are happening. But as I was saying, it is important to be flexible. It is important to be adaptable and to keep your eyes open. This was a message that had come through on the Patreon reading I did yesterday as well. There's this message of don't go back to sleep. Look around, look for your signs, look for your omens, ask the questions, the real questions. How am I supposed to be moving forward? What is the most beneficial thing for me to focus my time and energy on? In what ways do I need to adjust to be the most successful in this next season? And success is not just platform and impact and money. Success is also health. It is energy. It is passion. It is feeling excited to get up in the morning and live your life, to really live your life. It's all opening up. Now, I have 2 more downloads for you. The next one that had come through, which had actually come through in the last few days, I kind of get the bulk of that. Like I got this Transformers, I got like this Saturn and Jupiter energy and the bowling pins and the Etch-a-Sketch and all of this really funny stuff. And I know that they were, again, they're jokesters, so I know that they were laughing at me, kind of looking at all of these strange little pieces going, what are you trying to tell me right now? Like, how am I supposed to put this together in a way that is relatively digestible for other people? So they let me have a few days. They let me have a few days to try and like put my brain cells together. But I'm sorry, they're like, that's mean. I shouldn't be mean to myself. Working on it. But something that I noticed outside my window the other day is that there were a lot of robins outside of my house, it's an unusual time for robins. It's the middle of winter, but typically we associate robins with spring and rebirth and renewal. But there were also a lot of mockingbirds. And 2 of them have flown really quickly across my window, and both of them landed side by side on the fence right outside my house. And I noticed that they were turned to each other and they were chirping. It's like they were having this little conversation, and something about it really intrigued me. And I thought about how, one, again, robins talk about rebirth and renewal and all of this stuff, which is all of these energies that we're moving into. Mockingjays talk a lot about protection. So there is this message coming in about protect the new thing. Be a good steward over like your new habits. I know you guys have been working so hard on kind of being a little bit more emotionally disciplined, about not letting like the down moments take you out, about trying to stay as optimistic as you possibly can, about setting boundaries, about trying to take care of yourself. Like you guys are like spinning plates, like you're doing all of this really amazing stuff. But as we were talking on Patreon yesterday, it's about habits, right? And so sometimes it takes a little while for these new habits to really kind of settle in as our new normal. So part of like what this mockingbird and this robin were really trying to relate to me was protect the new, be a good steward over these new habits, hold yourself accountable, right? Just showing up for yourself, which is something we talked about in the mystery reading. Really take advantage of all this progress that's coming in for you. Mockingbirds are also fantastic mimickers. So part of what protecting the new may indicate for you is being mindful of ways in which you are mimicking old behaviors, ways in which you may be mimicking like unproductive thoughts, ways in which you may be getting too caught up in collective energy and then mimicking their energy or mimicking the way that they are expressing themselves. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that the season of the world, the season of the collective, it doesn't necessarily have to be your season. And so I think there may be like a distinct energy difference in between some of the seasons that you guys are having and just like what you may be seeing around you, right? You may be starting to feel a little bit more contented, a little bit more at peace, feeling kind of renewed, like seeing some more opportunities, as we were talking about the other day. They seem to be coming in these manageable waves. It's like a cumulative, like building up process. Whereas you may see people around you that are going through all kind of strife, or they're being very combative or argumentative. We are like energy sponges, right? So sometimes we can pull in some of that energy and start to act it out, even if it's not really authentic to who we are in this moment, and the different ways in which we're trying to move forward. So part of protecting the new is also being mindful that you are not mimicking unproductive habits, behaviors, conversations of other people. In many ways, a lot of you guys are coming forward as sort of these like leader energies, and it's not that you're like leading a battalion, but it's like becoming more of a leader in your own life, right? And these are all the lessons of intentionality and consciousness, and being really self-aware, being really mindful of what decisions you're making and how you're expressing yourself and how you decide to show up in the world. This is the application of all of the kind of theoretical work that we went through last year. And this kind of brings me to our last download for Aquarius season, which was about lanes, which is kind of funny because then they brought me back to like the bowling lanes thing. And so I don't know where you guys live. I don't know what like the traffic, what the road makeup looks like for you. But here, New Jersey, we have 3 lanes. There is a local lane. It's like the putt-putt lane. It kind of goes a little bit slower. There is the middle lane, which is the merging lane for people who kind of don't know where they want to go. And then there's the far left lane, which is the express lane. This is a message about pacing. Be honest with yourself about your pacing and what you're comfortable with. If you are a very high energy, super motivated, you just are a very passionate person, you like to go quickly, you're more of a sprinter than a marathon runner, it might feel natural for you to go into the left lane. If you are moving forward into this season and you feel really energized and you feel like you're ready to go, then get in the left lane, get in the express lane, because that's where the energy is going. But remember, it's just like on a highway, but everyone else in that lane, all of the rest of the energy in that lane, they're trying to go too. They're trying to cruise by at like 80 miles per hour. So you got to keep up with the flow of that energy. Some of you might be used to riding in the left lane, but you want to move to the putt-putt lane. Like you're trying to slow down. You're trying to find a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more peace, a little bit more contentment. Great. Move your ass over 2 lanes and get in the local lane. Take the slower route and operate within that energy. A lot of you are in the middle lane. You're in the merging lane. You have moments where it's like you kind of want to just ease into the energy, ease into this new, right? And then you might have moments where it's like you just want to go and you want to go fast. That's okay, but those of you that resonates with, you're probably the ones going through like the highs and then the lows a lot more, and there's nothing wrong with that. The energy is circulating for everyone exactly the same. It's just the timing of that circulation is a little bit different. We're all different, but it's this message of protect the new. Be mindful you're not mimicking other people. Stay in your lane. This is part of not allowing the rhetoric that is going on around you this next season. Fierce focus, which I believe was one of the titles of the Aquarius readings I did at the beginning of January. Like a fierce focus, but it's not just fierce, it's fun. It's focusing on like the good stuff that's coming ahead of you. Your mind is the biggest battlefield in all the realms, my love, right? And so stay in your lane. Stay focused and enthusiastic about what is coming forward for you. Figure out your new assignments. Protect these new mindsets that you have. Allow Jupiter to come in and throw you a graduation party. Allow yourself to feel redeemed. After everything, feel new. Feel clean again, like after like a really hard, sticky, dense, oppressive year. Stay in that lane. Understand your pacing. Stay in the middle lane if you want. Bob back and forth. See what you're more comfortable with. Some of you have been in the putt-putt lane for a real long time. You've been riding local for years, and you're ready to merge over into the express lane. But again, if the energy is there, you have to roll with it. So it's the idea of if you want to get in the express lane, you can do it. But again, we're going 80 miles per hour. So go. Get up, show up, like kind of do your thing, right? Rock with the energy while it's available for you. And some of you want to move over to the local lane because you want to slow down and you want to take your time and then do that. And then don't feel guilty because you're not going as fast as people in the left lane. that wasn't the point. The point was for you to slow down and enjoy the scenery, right? Take the scenic route. But regardless of what lane you are in, and personally, I suggest being in the lane that is the healthiest for you. Some of us feel a lot better when we're really productive and we're kind of moving quickly through the energy. Some of us feel better when we're taking a little bit of a slower pace. Choose the lane that is the healthiest and most supportive to you, right? Part of like that slower lane, the local lane, it's not about being passive. It's about taking only the actions that are helpful to you and allow you to maintain balance. And if you want to vroom vroom, you vroom vroom. But get in your lane, be honest with yourself. Every lane is leading to a destination. That's these new visions that are coming in. That's these new assignments. And then just stay in it and just move forward. Very good. Very good. So as I was saying before, I think the energies are really beautiful for Aquarius season. I think the energy moving into February, I'm just about to start the monthlies, but they feel so good. They feel so good. They feel like cashmere and vanilla and like an oak candle. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but sometimes things will come in like that. I have a couple Taurian placements, but that's what February feels like for me. It feels like vanilla and like cashmere and like one of those like really like earthy, woodsy, like oak candles, like one of those fancy ones that like you barely ever light because they're so expensive. Like that's kind of how it feels, which is exciting for me. And so I hope you guys are excited too. I know I pulled a few decks out, but honestly, I don't think we need them. I don't feel like I need to confirm a message that was already given to me and then confirmed and then confirmed and then confirmed again. But as I was saying, you've been through a lot. The energy moving into Aquarius season, it's so beautiful, but just be aware that there might be some pressure from you kind of going down this lane in order to sort of like hit your mark. You might feel like a little just out of sorts because again, it's one at a time. It's not you in the collective. It's not you in validation. It's not you in any of the guilt you still have over the past. It's none of that shit. If you can, let it go. Create the room. Stop punishing yourself. Saturn is on your side. Once you have Saturn on your side, you cannot beat yourself up anymore. You can give yourself a pat on the back. It can be difficult to get that guy on your side. So if he's pulling for you, you should be pulling for yourself too. Allow yourself to ask what you are being guided to do differently this next season. Check in what your new assignments are. See if there's a new vision that wants to emerge. And then get in that lane, protect that vision, and go. So that's what I have for you for Aquarius season. It's short, it's simple. We didn't pull any cards, but I don't want to pull cards if we don't need to pull cards. I love you very much. I didn't really check the chat because I wanted to stay focused. I wanted to stay focused, but I love you so much. And I'm going to read your messages later. A reminder that your Zodiac weekly readings for the second half of January, they are already out. They're all dated the 15th to the 31st. So if you're looking for your Zodiac reading, it's the same amount of content. I just bulk scheduled it this month as an experiment. I'm in my experimental phase on YouTube. But if you're looking for those readings this weekend or next week, they are going to be there for you. Yes. And I am getting started on the February monthlies for Patreon. I am planning out our workshops for February for the Patreon. I got some really good episodes in store for you guys for the worker beats here. So it's all really good stuff. I love you so much. I appreciate you being here. Not every message is for everyone, but I hope that this message is for all of you because it is so beautiful. And I think that you deserve it. So thank you so much for being with me. I love you so much. If you need me in the interim, you know where to find me.